no season sweep, Rosie. It was looking good for the first 25, 30 minutes of that game. And simply put, I thought the Leafs took their foot off the pedal and they ran into 41-year-old Craig Anderson, who is now, 13-3-1 in his last 18 starts against the Maple Leafs. This is his 20th NHL season, by the way. So he was in the league when you played.
Yeah, he definitely was. He was with Ottawa, I believe. And
Yeah.
it's funny. It's good to see him still out there. It's good to see guys that are older that you recognize. It makes you feel a little bit less old, to be honest. But I imagine cruising around that league, Craig Anderson feels plenty old himself. But good job last night.
Yeah. So what did you make of that game? Obviously, I think a lot of positives to grab. Number one, Austin Matthews, a goal and two helpers, a 3-game goal streak, 10 points in his last 7. Marner gets 2 apples in total, 3 games against Buffalo this season. He gets 9 assists. To me, I think that was a game they could quite frankly used a Luke Shen in their lineup, who was on a bird into Toronto on Monday, by the way, because I thought they were dominated in the blue paint in that game. Like Buffalo was on the doorstep, and there was no response from the Leafs D.
Yeah, man, it was one of those classic games. Like after going up 2-0 that handily, it looked like it was going to be a 5-0 game in a big hurry. And the the easy thing to do is take your foot off the gas, think this is going to be a little bit easier. And again, you're not physically, mentally saying to yourself, oh, this is going to, you're not nudging your buddy beside you on the bench going, this is going to be easy. It's just, oh, this is how the game is going. And then you start to loosen up and let off a little bit and maybe think that, you can try some things or whatever and kind of maybe veer off the game plan. And it so happens that at that exact same time, the other team is getting chewed out by their coach and they're saying you need to kick it up a notch, and everyone's regrouping and throwing the kitchen sink at you. And then boom, they come at you with that wave and you're just not prepared to handle it. It's a classic story when you get up a couple goals. And unfortunately, the Sabres really figured their game out, kept the hammer down on them, and the Leafs didn't, weren't able to have an answer. They had some chances. They could have tied that game up easily. They could have prevented that 4th goal. They could have tied it up earlier in the 3rd. It could have been a different game, but it wasn't. And again, you need to learn to prevent that from happening, to recognize it from happening. It comes from the coaches down and the leadership to, create those bump up shifts when they start to gain momentum back from you. And it just happened. It was just textbook hockey there, where you get up a few goals and let off the gas and the other team puts the hammer down. But at the end of the day, you wonder how much these guys are focused on the points and the games right now, and how much they're just trying to find their identity and trying to work the lines around, obviously, and figure out some kind of chemistry amongst all these players. It seems like that's kind of the priority right now over other things, I guess.
We know social media is a cesspool, but like the overreaction to that loss, I thought was unbelievable to me, because we all knew going into the last 20 games in the stretch run of the Stanley Cup playoffs, it really was trial and error, experimentation. You want to get your goalies cooking a bit, and Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. Like, to me, I didn't put much stock into the game. I thought there was a lot of actual positives to build from it. I know it stinks to lose to Buffalo, but you played them pretty well all season long. So you just move on. I know it's probably not the right approach in hockey, but knowing that this team has known their spot in the standings for like 2 months, they know who they're going to play. Obviously, still jockeying and battling for home ice advantage in that series against Tampa. I just move on, but I was a bit stunned how disappointed, how annoyed. The amount of bitching on social media after this game was incredible to me. Like, it's a meaningless game in mid-March against the Buffalo Sabres. Who cares?
Yeah, I've noticed a pattern of tension growing on Leafs Twitter, of people starting to, you're getting close to that playoffs and some bad memories are floating in. And, the Toronto media is famous for piling on and making mountains out of molehills and making, a small problem into a big one amongst themselves. And this morning and last night was no different. On Twitter, people are going, when is this going to end? And this is becoming unacceptable. And it's just like, they just beat New Jersey and then handily beat Edmonton. Yeah. Like, you're acting like they're on a 4-game slide. And it's mountains out of molehills on that Twitter. And it is, I've mentioned at the beginning of the season, it is difficult to play in that market, because this morning and after practice, when the media is in the room, they're going to be coming in, they're going to be throwing so much negativity, and the consensus is that this team's not ready and blah, blah. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Was that the consensus after the New Jersey game? Was that the consensus after Saturday night against Edmonton? No, it's just mountains out of molehills, man. I mean, it's not good to lose that lead. Was it a good loss? No. Is the reason for it? Maybe. But again, keep things in perspective. I mean, the Leafs are having a hard enough time getting over this hump of the first round without having everyone bail on them at the drop of a hat.
Mhm.
I mean, this is the team. They've shown so many good things. Why not focus on the positive and give your team some support coming into the playoffs rather than making it more difficult on them? Because they hear that shit, they feel that stuff. You know that it's happening in the room, and it makes it harder to play. Give me another reason why they haven't won in Toronto. It's a difficult market to win in. I'm not blaming the fans or Twitter for their losses, but why not make it easier and support them rather than more difficult?